I'm Britton Clennett and welcome to China Insight, where we discuss the latest issues affecting this rapidly changing country. Well, in the wake of China's recent decision to scrap its one-child policy, tens of millions of Chinese couples are now eligible to have a second child for the very first time. But are Chinese families choosing to have another baby now that they can? And what are the economic implications for the nation if they don't? Today I'm joined by an expert on the topic, Professor Qiao Xiaochun from Peking University's Population Research Institute. Welcome to the program.
You're welcome.
Well, this is an area you're very familiar with, I'm sure. Could you start by giving us some background to the one-child policy? Why was it implemented in the first place?
You know, China started family planning policy since early 1970s. Then at that time, that is two-child policy. You know, after that, since 1980, China started one-child policy. One-child policy, you know, start at that time that we called universal one-child policy. It means that not only the people in urban area, but also in rural area have to have had one child.
Okay, well, I want to talk about the importance of this on the Chinese economy. But first, let's go to our video clip. China Insight reporter Joey Catanzaro investigated what knock-on effects the relaxing of China's family planning policy might have. Let's take a look.
In this ordinary maternity ward in China, something extraordinary is happening. Something rarely seen in this nation for generations.
Regardless of where you are in the world, a newborn child is a very special thing. But this baby right here, who was born just yesterday, something truly remarkable. Her parents already have a child, which means Dodo is baby number 2. And in China, that's something pretty special. What you're looking at right now is the end of China's one-child policy. 非常漂亮。我认为像她的妈妈非常漂亮。
也本来想要第二个的，然后现在刚好政策出来了，然后两个人也计划着再要一胎，然后结果如愿以偿了，然后还是个小姑娘，刚好一个好字，女子。
In the wake of China's decision to scrap the one-child policy, hospitals like this one are bracing for a baby boom, with estimates suggesting some 90 million Chinese couples are now eligible to have a second child. But after decades of one is better than two, some say the writing is on the wall and few couples will actually choose to have a second baby. A quick glance at the early evidence suggests they may well be right. In 2013, China relaxed the policy for the first time. 20 million couples where one parent was an only child became eligible to have a second of their own. But 2 years on, only 12% had chosen to do so. Those few who've taken the plunge say adapting to the change has literally been a case of baby steps.
在没开放以前，我们再生一个，我们肯定是计划外违法生育的，所以我们就是只是可能有念想，哎，有个小朋友一起也蛮好，但是不会去生的。
对，像我们国企这边是不允许的，单位来说它也是有影响。
以前都是我们那是农村，我们农村在墙上刷着的，大字写好，只生一个娃好，是吧？少生娃，多种树。
It's the mid-1970s, and the world's most populous nation has yet to experience the explosive economic growth that would lift tens of millions out of poverty. It's an era when some 4 children are born for each woman. More, it's thought, than both families and the nation can afford. The one-child policy was rolled out across the country in the 70s and 80s in a bid to speed development and increase per capita income. Now it's been relegated to the history books. But its legacy will take time to shrug off. The one-child policy prevented some 400 million births at a time when it was thought China could least afford them. But there's another side to that coin. Couples who broke the rules faced abortions or heavy fines. This is the situation Hui Linyan and her husband faced back in 2014. Then, just weeks before the birth of their second child, the family planning rules in Beijing were relaxed for the first time. And instead of a heavy fine or worse, the couple suddenly found themselves at the forefront of a new wave of two-child families in China. This is Zhang Xinwei, and she's about to turn 2 years old. She shares this bedroom with her parents, He Linyan and Zhang Zhejiang, and her 3-year-old brother, Zhang Haoyi. The apartment belongs to Zhejiang's parents, who sleep in the second bedroom. Zhejiang works for a mobile phone company. Linyan is in sales. They are a typical Beijing family, except for the fact that they have 2 children instead of 1.
当时觉得特紧张，千万别早产。我们就一直，因为我们预产期是3月6号嘛，14年3月6号，所以我们就千万别早产。这要早产啊，没在政策以内。没想到我们家妹妹挺争气的，给我们家省了不少一笔。对，真的确实是不少一笔。
起码1辆车钱出来。
The rule change came just in time. If little Xinwei had been born just a few weeks earlier, the couple would have been hit with a fine, roughly equivalent to $31,000. Their very ordinary family home has suddenly become a weather vane for millions of other Chinese families, now eligible to have a second child. Lin Yan and Zhejiang say it's been an adjustment, and it's not all smooth sailing. Tears and tantrums are on the up. Hao Yi's just had a fight with his little sister, and she's got a few scratches to show for it.
因为他毕竟他2个人差距的年龄比较小，应该就差了1岁半，然后当时哥哥也刚会走，说话还没说利索的，然后他也吃醋。当妈妈抱着那个妹妹的时候，他会说：“妈妈，你别抱妹妹。”然后他也不会说，然后他指指自己，他意思说抱抱他。那么我就会问他，我说：“那妹妹怎么办？”他指指地，意思说你可以把她放到地上。
In China, single children from the one-child generations are often referred to as little emperors.
等一会儿让妈妈给你抱好不好？
For decades, parents have poured their time and money into these sole heirs in an effort to boost their prospects. Now, it's a sharing game. And while the adults in the family are learning to adjust to the changed dynamic and increased cost of a second child, Hao Yi is adjusting too. The little emperor has to learn to live with the little empress.
以我们俩的能力，实际上还是有一部分真的要靠老人来贴补一下。第一，经济上的；第一个就是精神上的，还有这个老人照顾孩子上面，他都要投入很多。如果说任何一点缺一点的话，可能他都没有勇气去要2胎。
Walk down the streets of China, and it's difficult to believe the most populous nation on the planet could use more people. But since 2012, the number of working-age Chinese has been falling, and the nation is growing old before its time. The vast reserves of cheap labour that speeded China's development are disappearing as millions of workers retire each year. It's driving up wages and costs for business. On this building site, most of the workers are close to joining the 14% of the population who are now retired.
我们现在说劳动力越来越缺乏，年龄呢在50岁左右，甚至呢有时候60来岁的。工资呢，一年比一年高嘛，你前5年跟现在5年，就是等于翻一番了啊。
The number of Chinese people under the age of 14 is declining, as is the number of workers. But by 2030, the number of retirees is set to soar to 400 million, more than the populations of the US and UK combined. More old people straining services and households, and less workers to drive growth is a problem China's still developing economy isn't ready for. The solution, more babies, may lie with couples like this one in Beijing. Zhong Ke and Zhang Xue belong to China's rising middle class. They have 2 apartments, 2 cars, and 2 children.
当时的状态就是说，我们当时知道这个宝宝已经有这小宝宝的时候，我们当然也对于我们来讲也是进入了一个思考的过程吧。首先，他可能会为此要放弃工作上。
对，姥姥一个人会比较辛苦，所以我就只能说辞职，在家去照顾第2个孩子。
Coco and her sister Abby aren't the result of the relaxed family planning rules. Their parents were exempt. almost 40% of the population, generally in the countryside, has always been allowed to have 2 babies, and typically they've done so. But the end of the policy in the cities reveals it wasn't the only thing holding families back. A picture is emerging of an urban China that doesn't want 2 kids.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. For a population to remain steady and sustainable, each woman has to have at least 2 children to replace her and her husband when they die. In China, the national average birth rate has fallen to 1.4 children per woman, and that's a problem. But there's an even bigger issue. More than half of China's population now live in urban areas, where the birth rate has fallen so that it's just 0.9 children per woman, much less than the 1 child they were always allowed to have. So for the new 2-child policy to gain traction, it has to be effective here in big cities like Beijing.
On the face of it, China's plummeting birth rate isn't unique. The number of births is falling across much of Asia, but it's worse for China, even though its birth rate is predicted to gradually rise while the Asian average falls. Unlike some of its neighbours, China's is still a developing economy, and the bite of fewer babies, which means less workers, is being felt.
2胎的父母其实要更多的学习真正怎么去做父母，怎么去
裁判。
对，
是的，
只要去当裁判就好了，不要去干预他的生活。
实际上我觉得这就是这真的是我们这代人可能父母还能开始有的体会。
对，
就是因为我们上一代的父母应该都是独生子女，他会干预你很多，从学习到工作到结婚，这什么都会管。
因为他就我们这么一个孩子，他希望给我们最好的东西。
With the pension system still developing, there's a traditional expectation children will financially support their parents and grandparents in old age. Long term, 2 children could make economic sense. But for generations, money has been poured into a single child to increase their prospects. Many parents believe that in the short term, splitting money between 2 children will damage everyone's future.
Many people in China are concerned about the expense of having a second child. Was this something you were worried about before you had a second child, and how expensive is it?
我们俩1个月的花销，光孩子上面大概得在2万左右。
2万左右。
得在2万左右。
主要是孩子小的时候是奶粉钱跟尿不湿的费用是大头费用，然后随着他到了上幼儿园的阶段，就是学费、
奶粉、尿不湿啊。 玩具啊，衣服什么的，营养品之类的，这些其实听着不是很贵，但是用长了的话，就是一笔很大的开销。
因为我俩的工资基本上都交代在他俩
身上。对，全交在孩子身上了。
因为如果我们一家就是1个月花3000的话，他就占500吧，差不多。
For Beijing-based migrant workers Zhu Ke and Li Chao, the policy change is something they've been waiting and hoping for. Their son Xiao Xiao is almost 3 years old, and they're excited about the prospect of giving him a little brother or sister soon. The family represents a demographic believed to number in the millions who have been crying out for the relaxation of the family planning rules. Their household budget is strict, and mum and dad, perhaps unusually in China, don't believe spending a lot of money is essential for their child's happiness. But they do think that a sibling is. Zhu Ke, who works in IT, has a twin brother. His wife, who is a stay-at-home mum, has 2 siblings. Neither can imagine what life would be like for their child growing up alone. But until now, having baby number 2 was not a choice for them to make.
你好，周易，这是我们住的地方，然后这是我们公用厨房，都在这儿做饭。 客厅是这两家隔开的，然后有2户住在这儿。这是一个情侣在这儿的，我们家在这儿。哎，老婆，我回来了。
This tiny apartment on the outskirts of Beijing is home to 4 migrant worker families. The rent's cheap, but there's not much in the way of spare space. But even though there's already 7 people crammed inside these 4 walls, Zhu Ke and his wife Li Chao say there's room for 1 more.
A bed, a laptop, and not much else. This is the single room where the family live, sleep, and eat.
When you heard that the policy had changed and that you were finally able to have a second child, how did you feel?
本来有计划要2胎的，但是一直国家政策等着政策看啥时候出台，因为我一直有关注这个消息，因为人口有红利，它要再晚几年，可能这2胎已经没有什么效果了。
But not everybody feels the same way. On this farm in Zhejiang province and across much of the nation, the mentality that 1 child is better than 2 has taken root for a whole host of reasons.
但是像我们这个年纪的人了，大多数全都40以上了，他们都说，不要了，不要了，太烦了，就是说太烦了。像我们干的这么累，是吧？自己不享受，这生一个孩子还要给他们去享受，太麻烦了，太累了。
他不乖的话，我要是说了你不乖，我再生个弟弟妹妹，他说我不要，我不要，我不要你生的。
A straw poll on the streets shows there's some resistance to the idea of a second child in the cities as well.
我看到很多有2胎的，就是妈妈都要参加，就放弃工作全职嘛，当全职妈妈。可是我觉得，我还是非常需要工作的，不能丧失一个新时代女性的必要的一种独立性吧。
那我觉得还是一个好一点，全心全意把我的爱给他，然后呢，可以把他呢照顾得好一点，培养他成才。一个也就够了，2个太累了。
平时自己也想做一些自己喜欢做的事情，然后如果再生第2胎的话，我想自己的生活品质肯定会下来的。
This is Zhoushan, an archipelago just off China's southeast coast, where 98% of the population could previously only have 1 child. It's a popular holiday destination and a marine industry hub. It's also a demographic time bomb. More than 20% of the locals are now 60 years or older. By 2030, if the ageing problem here remains unchecked, about 40% of residents will be retired. This is why Zhoushan became the first place in China to usher in the relaxed family planning rules in 2013. It's now arguably the most accurate early weather vane for gauging if the rest of the nation will choose to have a second child now that they can. But the early signs aren't promising.
Did many couples decide to have a second child after the rules changed here in 2013?
因为目前根据全国和全省的情况来看，单独2孩政策实施以后都没有出现大的井喷式的增长。
Do you think this new 2 children for everyone rule that's just been introduced will be more successful? And why or why not?
全面2孩政策符合的比单独2孩政策符合的人数多3倍。那么当然这个里面呢，结构还是有一些问题的。这个符合全面2孩政策的这个家庭，大部分都是年龄在35岁以上了。我们做了一个意愿的调查，生育意愿调查，50%几他们表示呢不愿意再生第2个孩子。
Only 1,000 out of 20,000 eligible Zhoushan couples chose to have a second baby after the 2013 reform. Now that the policy has been scrapped entirely, another 60,000 couples here can have a second child. But a recent survey found just 11% of those couples actually wants one, and almost 60% of women now eligible to have baby number 2 are aged 40 plus.
那么随着这个今年我们全面2胎的放开，应该讲这个产妇的年龄会有所增大，所以对这一部分的产妇，我们专门开设了2胎门诊。
Age is no deterrent for some, waiting for another look at this view.
Now I have a second baby. I'm very happy to know this news. I wait this news 3 years, a little longer. Some people in 43, maybe be a grandmother.
It's impossible to know how many Chinese parents will choose to have a second child now that they can. What's most important for those that have waited and wanted is that the choice is now theirs to make.
We've kind of seen from the video, you know, obviously there is a reluctance to, by many to have their second child, but you know, a lot of people have been waiting for this and are excited by this, and it's changed many people's lives, this decision, you know, by the government to relax the policy. So, you know, in your view, why the policy was implemented to begin with?
At that time, you know, China still have very high fertility. You know, so that's why the government believed that because China has huge, you know, a number of population, so that's why, you know, the government really worry, you know, the increase of the population. So that's why they think that we should implement one-child policy rather than the two-child policy at that time. Yeah.
So what they were facing with at the time was a potential population boom, and this is what they were frightened of.
You know, that is one of the reasons is the fertility. Another reason is, you know, the economy at that time is quite poor. You know, we call that, you know, the shortage economy at that time. You know, even at that time, China implement, you know, plan economy. It means that the government, you know, make plan to every people. You know, it means that the government offer everything people, including, you know, food, you know, housing, you know, job, everything. So because the economy at that time is quite poor, the government not afford, you know, such amount of a population.
Right.
You know, that's the problem. So that's why, you know, the government think that we should, you know, control the population in order to
be able to provide welfare to everyone.
You know, makes, you know, the increase of the population and the increase of economy, you know, could be adapted.
Okay, well, you know, you touched on the economy there. You know, China is facing a worker shortage, an aging population, low fertility rate. How important is, you know, the two-child policy for the economy?
You know, the fertility now is quite lower, even lower than the fertility, you know, in European countries. So that's why the government thinks that we should change the policy, you know, because, you know, lower fertility also can cause a lot of problems. For example, aging, you know, pension problems, and maybe cause, you know, decrease of labor force. So that may cause the problems in the development of the economy.
Well, it's estimated that by 2050 there'll be 7 dependents for every 10 workers. Can the policy change this?
You know, the policy can change a little bit. You know, such kind of trend, you know, could not be changed by this policy. Even, you know, some of the people try to have 2 children.
Okay, so you're saying the long-term benefits are there.
Yeah.
But how realistic is this medium to high growth in the next 5 years then?
Yeah, you know, the consequence in the future, you know, that is aging. You know, the general trend of the aging cannot be changed by the changing of the fertility. You know, so that's why if there's some change in the future, I think that it's only change very little bit, you know, kind of proportion. You know, it's a very, you know, limit. It's not change a lot.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about this after the break. Stay with us. Professor Cao Xiaochun and I have been discussing China's one-child policy, which was scrapped at the end of last year after several steps had been taken over the years to relax the family planning policy implemented during the 1980s. Well, in arguably our most adorable Vox Pop segment ever, China Insight asked a group of youngsters whether they would like a new brother or sister. Let's see what they had to say.
在妈妈想要生弟弟妹妹之前的话，我是非常的介意，因为毕竟他们很小，然后会吵到我，然后当他生出来的时候就有一点点改变了，因为毕竟生出来了，不可能再让他回去。
你想要一个弟弟或者妹妹吗？
妈妈和我生一个哥哥就行了。因为哥哥会陪我玩。 是我以前玩得很无聊，所以我也想要一个弟弟陪我一起玩。其实我已经有一个哥哥了，可是我还想要2个弟弟妹妹陪我一起。
那你如果是可以选的话，你想要弟弟还是妹妹呢？
弟弟。
为什么？
因为他很可爱，有点调皮。
谁调皮？
弟弟有点调皮，有点不调皮。
Professor, do you have a brother or sister?
I have one sister.
And did you a younger sister or older sister?
Younger.
Younger.
Yeah.
Did you want to have her when you were that age?
Yeah, because at that time, I think that the 2 children is best in China.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wonder, there's little emperors, the kids who, single child kids who, were raised during the one-child policy. Perhaps they got a lot of attention from their parents.
Yes.
Is that real? Is this a real, real issue? This reluctance that parents actually listen to their kids who say, no, I don't want a brother or sister.
Yeah, this is really kind of a reason that, one child mean that the whole family, focus on the only one.
And we could launch into a discussion about, the social implications of having little emperors in China, what kind of, when they have to face the real world and go into the workforce and everything like that, kind of the knock-on effects that can happen. But what I want to ask you about is, there is this emphasis on boosting the workforce, boosting the fertility rate.
Yeah.
But, China is trying to make a transition to a service-based economy. So I wonder how important this really is to boost the workforce so that we have more workers when we're moving away in China from a manufacturing-based economy anyway.
Even someone may think that because the economic transition already happened, so why we need more number of labor force? It means that lower fertility is okay if we really, make the transition of the economy. But the problem is that in some developed country, even like Japan and some country in European areas, they have already changed their economic situation. Their economic situation already step on higher level, but they still need more number of population.
Right.
Japan is a very
Well,
good example.
Japan has an aging population as well. So this is the emphasis is on this as well. You're not just dealing with, for the sake of the economy, a bigger workforce. You're trying to reduce the burden of having an elderly population.
That's right.
Okay. Well, it'll be interesting, having this discussion in a year's time and seeing how many people, how many couples actually ended up having kids and taking up this opportunity and the implications of that on the economy. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
You're welcome.
If you have any comments or questions, please email us at chinainsight@cctv.com, or you can reach us on Facebook, Weibo and WeChat. And we'll see you next time for more stories and discussion on China out of China. Goodbye.